off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports radio station KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, home to the Asian Oprah, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, Tiki Live, Rumble, JioSaavn, and more. Welcome to the show. This is the show about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K words, no Kardashian talk at all. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So I have topics and guests. If you missed any of my past 900, what are we on now? 900 and a lot, 11 years, 580 consecutive weeks on the air. I'm grateful that those who said a show about hope and happiness would not last, and how. So I'm grateful you're here. You can get all of my past shows. Yesterday, what did we do? Yeah, Lee Cholodenko was here talking about business leadership. That was really interesting. We had my Tuesday special series, Step Up into Your Best Life, with my co-host, Beth Linder Moss, and we were talking about how to get better sleep at night. And cancer research doctors. I had Fran Drescher on talking about how to prevent cancer. So I just have a plethora of different things that we talk about, bringing experts on. And Thursday, is my fun day where I get to be a little naughty because my co-host, who is here in studio now, even though he was out late last night, I heard, he got here on time, sort of. And welcome back to the studio, Sam. Good morning. We're going to jump right into breakfast with Dr. Marissa and
Sam Works.
And we're going to, we have our cashew gallery here. We've got Orville Nation out of New York. We've got, look, you got your own. Hi, Sam. And Inspiration TV out of Texas with a pink hand pink waving, something like that. And so y'all get to have breakfast with us now by taking a bite of my gratitude sandwich. So what does that mean? 8 specific gratitudes, things outside of yourself that you would like to start your day with, recognizing, instead of doing this in the morning and recognizing all that's wrong with the world, then we focus and use our most powerful tool in life to start the day off on the right side, stepping into gratitude. I am grateful that you got here, even though you were out late last night. What are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for yesterday. It was very relaxing and stress-free and calming, and I haven't had one of those days in a long time, so it felt good. Felt really good.
Good. I'm grateful that I have so much. Abundance is all around me. I've heard more birds singing for no reason at all. Okay, I'll stop there. That's like kind of 2, but good.
I like it. I'm grateful that it's not too hot yet for the summertime. I'm not really a summer guy, so, summer's getting pushed a little further. It's hanging on, but I'm glad it's not over 100 degrees. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, gotcha. Inspiration TV is grateful for good vibes. I'm going to use that.
Good vibes.
Good vibes. And I am grateful for, my last one is Let's see, the work that I get to do. And
Mm,
I mean, it's kind of funny because this show is first thing in the morning, every weekday morning at 8. And so if you haven't already, free subscribe on my YouTube channel, you get an alert saying it's time for the show. And it's like, this is so much a part of my life that doesn't even feel like work. I mean, it is work, but that means I just have this baseline from which to jump off and just get so much. I get to drive out to Chino Hills today, out your way for
mm,
a client. And I love doing business strategic planning. I'm helping out a new leader who is taking on a new role. And it's just like a constant source of creative flow. And I'm so grateful for that.
mm. All right, my last one. I'm grateful for all the new opportunities that come my way, all the doors that have been opening and all the doors that haven't been closing. I have a it just life is too amazing, I'm grateful for that as a whole. So,
Fantastic. And that's the top of the bun. Bottom of the bun is, what do you like about yourself? And the reason why we
mm,
do this is because I want you to exercise that tool, the choice to look at what's right with you. Too often we're in our critical chatter, that automatic subconscious that comes up and beats you up. It shoulds on you, should. And what we want to do is put the critic in its place, thank it for its protection that it has afforded us so we're not run over by cars or have red burnt hands from putting it on the stove. But we want to balance out all that's wrong with us with what is right with us. So I appreciate that I am caring. I had a
mm,
new batch of kids last night. You know, I race sailboats, right? On
yes.
Wednesdays during the summer, my 34th season. And we got the kids from Lakewood YMCA. And I had a great time. I teach them how to race during the race. And they're just adorable. So I appreciate that I'm caring and I get to express that care to them.
Mm. I appreciate that I can have deep conversations and be somewhat vulnerable when I need to be.
Nice. I appreciate
Mm,
I I love to drive. I think
mm,
I remember I took my daughter and her friends down to a conference in San Diego, and I was, starting to drive, and I said, I just love driving. And her friend in the back goes, I have never heard an adult say that. So I appreciate that I love maneuvering.
mm. All right. I appreciate that I can keep going, even though I went on a little like fun little vacation last night. I'm back at it. Woke up this morning, maybe not perfectly on time, but I'm here.
You're here. You're absolutely here. Last one, I appreciate my ability to be okay with 88% perfect. I used to want to be perfect. And so that critic really did a number. Even if I got 99 things right and one thing wrong, all I
Mm,
focused on was what was wrong. And I appreciate that now I get to focus on 88 things that I do right. And the 12%, I go, okie dokie. I'm not perfect and
mhm,
it's okay.
mm. I appreciate that I care about other people's lives other than just mine, and it motivates me to be something great so I can, I don't know, help other people change their lives, you know?
Absolutely. And that is it for the having breakfast with us here in studio. You are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using a gift balance with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, the station that leaves no listener behind. Thanks for having breakfast with us. And now we are going to the topic that we actually said we were going to do last week, but I wanted to balance out all of the negative parts of relationships that we had been talking about and put a little funny positive spin on the, what sign are you? So we did that. That was pretty fun last week. I ended up, by the way, talking about that again the next day because Alon wanted to talk about it since we had talked about it. And she just, she's like, where's Sam? So you're going to have to get up 2 days in a row one of these days and come on. She's missing you. Just saying. Just saying. I feel like chopped liver sometimes between the two of you. But anyways, let's see. What are we talking about? Let's see what I put down last night. So how do you know you are in a toxic relationship? Do you smell some bad fumes, suffer chemical burns? Just kidding. Seriously, the term toxic relationship begs the question, why would you stay in a toxic relationship anyways? This and more today, and that is the topic. So what is a toxic relationship? Take a guess, and then I'm going to do my handy dandy favorite thing, which is look up stuff real time. So we're not just spouting off on our own opinion, but we actually have some official definitions. But what is a toxic relationship to you, Sam?
A toxic relationship to me is where a relationship starts to misdirect your life, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, and even financially. And you're blind to it or you're aware of it and you continue to be in that relationship. It ruins families, it ruins friends, and I mean, overall, it's just a bad thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, nobody goes, I want to meet someone and have a toxic relationship. Usually not. Usually not. But here's the definition that came up first on Google search. A toxic relationship is one in which two people don't communicate or relate to one another in healthy ways and where conflict easily arises. I think that's a key word there. In these relationships, at least one person tries to minimize the other's perspective and increase their competitive nature. Now that surprises me on the competition thing. So that makes sense. It reminds me of the gaslighting we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where at least one person tries to minimize the other's perspective. So that makes sense to me. And I'm going to go to Time Magazine because they have the people who write for Time Magazine are usually extremely good at research. So I'm going to go to what they are saying, and they're more bipartisan than other biased news. Is this coming up?
Yes.
Good. For the love of moving. No, that's an ad. How to tell if you're in a toxic relationship and what to do about it. Okay. So let's see. Relationships are hard. That's a BS. Also a belief system. I think that like how hard do relationships have to be? I actually did an interview down in San Diego for a TV station, KUSI, Valentine's, number of years ago. And her question was, do relationships have to be hard? Well, of course I would like hard in some ways. But the relationship itself, are all relationships hard? And I think there's a balance there that I want to just point out, that if it's the same as that line I just read, conflict easily arises. So yes, I think that there's definitely some adjustment from how I grew up with, let's stop this for a second. When I grew up, and relationships are so easy, right? Snow White, Cinderella, that's how I grew up. thinking about relationships. Jerry Maguire, for those of you who are younger, this BS belief system that you meet, our eyes meet across the room, and it's magic, and you live happily ever after. So, in that sense, there's no work at all. It's very easy. It's not hard. And that's bullshitaki because that's not realistic. The other extreme is people who stay in toxic relationships. Well, maybe it's just this is how relationships are. They're hard. My relationship at home, I watch my parents. Horrible relationship. So that's the norm. Okay. That's the extreme. Too hard. Where's the balance? How hard do relationships have to be before you say this is too hard? I want to ask you that question.
Oof. How hard does a relationship have to be before it's too hard? I think that's a loaded question, and
That's why I asked it.
and it's as hard as until someone gives up. I mean, I think people can be in hard relationships and still be together. Because every relationship is different. If relationships are easy, then there's no growth in a relationship.
So let's get specific. Hard is you're in arguments, okay? Arguments are never fun. Conflict is not fun. There's a lot of conflict. How many arguments do you have to have in order for you to begin to question whether that relationship is too hard or, keep using that word. So once a week having an argument, is that normal? Is it acceptable? One argument a day, is that something that's normal and acceptable? So let's just look at arguments. How often, because you know how I like to operationalize things, how often is too much?
Okay, like serious arguments.
Yeah, good distinction. Bickering and blow up. Okay. How much bickering is okay? And how often are blow ups okay?
Okay. 12% of the time during the week, all right? Bickering's fine. I don't mind a little bickering, okay? You give me a little headache, that's whatever. That's what we do. Blow ups, man, maybe once every season for me.
4 times a year.
Yeah, because like blow ups are like, all right, that's a staple in our relationship. Like obviously blow ups are either you fix it or you don't, right? How many times are we gonna try to fix something and that one time where it's just like too much? I don't know, because
but if blow ups, emphasis on the blow, if blow ups lead to makeup sex though, okay, I know that my former neighbor, that was like a regular thing, fight 2 a.m. and then makeup sex. So that is also, may come into play.
That may also be toxic.
Okay, makeup sex being toxic. Okay, that is why.
Why it may be toxic? Because makeup sex might, be great. Who knows? You might actually really like makeup sex, so you start causing problems just for that, and then it's kind of psychotic.
It is a little interesting way to stimulate, definitely.
There you go. That's a good term for
it. All right, so make toxic relationships as it applies to you. If you are having major blowups more than 4 times a year, and if you're bickering more than 12% of the time, that's your personal, red flag. Things are getting a little toxic.
Yeah, because
you don't have to defend it. I think it's a pretty good measure. I would go with that. My whole deal is, oh, good, Maria's here. Good morning, Maria.
Good morning.
We're talking about toxic relationships. You actually wanted us to talk about this last time. Or no. You were like, oh no, we're going to talk about it. And we're defining how often is conflict or blow-ups in a relationship. You missed the part where Sam was talking about a blow-up doll. Just kidding. How often blow-ups are okay. So for Sam, yes, thank you for that. And yes, PJ's in the house. This is my cashew gallery instead of peanut gallery. So Sam's opinion is once a season, blow up, and bickering 12% of the time is okay. For me, and this is because I'm the poster child for one of the 7 out of 10 of us who've had childhood trauma. I had a relationship. My sentence was 9.2 years with my husband. So we were married for 9.2 years. And honestly, I think we fought, and it was never a fight. It was one-sided, me, 6 times. That's it. Now that's very unhealthy, but because conflict is so uncomfortable for me because of the beatings and the abuse and the screaming and all of that at growing up, any sign of escalation, I'm out of there. I check out, or I try to use my communication skills. And so it took me 6 times to leave that relationship, but all 5 times it was a blow up over 9.25 years. Okay. And it was just me because I picked a guy who was also uncomfortable with conflict. So there would never be a fight. And the only fight that happened was during the divorce. And then it got super ugly. But that, to me, I get uncomfortable when I listen to couples bicker, which is my problem, not theirs. Like my bonus mom and dad, 93 and 90, they've been married 73 years. Okay. And I see them 3-4 times a week. We go out and we're all foodies, and I love having meals with them, and they'll bicker. They will bicker like probably every 3rd time I see them, and I get super uncomfortable, but I know that that's healthy. So even though you said 12% bickering, that's like 12% too much for me. But that's one of the reasons why I'm not good at relationships. I don't know what healthy conflict is.
Yeah. I mean, something that I learned not too long ago was like when you argue with, your relationship partner, it shows that you care, right? Because if you didn't, then you just blow everything off and you just keep moving forward. And it's like sometimes having an argument is good because that is another form or way of communication, right? They're expressing how they feel deep down. They probably haven't told you about it, and you guys can adjust and fix each other from there. That's how you guys grow. But if you're always just arguing and just like being abusive verbally to each other, then obviously there's no communication. There's a lack of communication, and there's a lack of care and self-respect, to you and your significant other. What worries me though is when people are in a toxic, argumentative, physical or verbal toxic relationship. Sorry, it's too early for me today. It can affect your future relationships as well. And the reason being is I know some people who have stayed in a toxic, abusive, like physical and verbal relationship, and they carried it on to the other relationship where they met a really nice person, a very caring person, but to them it got boring because there was no adrenaline in the relationship. There was no excitement. There wasn't no fear. There wasn't anything to stimulate their senses in a relationship. So they started creating a toxic relationship. And it's hard to get out of. It's almost like a drug, right? It's a high
Right.
you're getting from arguing and feel like you're about to get hit, or like your life is on the line, It's like
Yeah.
almost a thrill.
I am drama, therefore I am.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that again, just like I just admitted, it's not about them, it's about you, which
Right.
is sort of what I hinted at. Let's look at the signs of a toxic relationship. This is from Healthline. Do you see it?
I mean, I see it pulled up, but it's too small on my screen.
Is it? Okay. One is lack of support. Healthy relationships are built on a mutual desire to see others succeed in an area of life. But when things turn toxic, every achievement becomes a competition. So definitely, because I am a little more alpha and a little more competitive, that's one of the problems I have in relationships. It's like I am, I can't talk about anything that's going well, because then it becomes they're not supportive and they're not happy for me. Instead, I can do better than that, or they feel like I'm putting them down.
Mm-hmm.
2, toxic communication. Instead of kindness and mutual respect, most of your conversations are filled with sarcasm or criticism and fueled by contempt. And it says a predictor of divorce. Interesting. This is from a highly respected database from the National Institute of Health. That's the source. I love when people source their stuff. So I can say from my experience, the only time that my husband and I got along is when he was making fun of somebody and being very sarcastic. That was the humor. I would laugh, and that was and as a diversity consultant, that was such a split for me. Here I am in organizations talking about valuing diversity, and I come home and he's like making fun of every diverse, group there is. Envy or jealousy. I think we talked about controlling behaviors, resentment. I should have you, as I'm reading these, if you're in a relationship and this is part of your relationship, I want you to nod yes. No, I'm not talking to you, Maria. And if you don't have that in your relationship, go like this. So we'll do a checklist on this and see if you really are in a toxic relationship. So resentment is number 5, holding grudges and fester chips away at intimacy. Your mom, Sam, at one point was talking about, I think it was a friend of hers that would let things just build up, and then explode. And I can say, I've seen some research that that the gender difference, women definitely do this more than men. And it plays out in the workplace. I joke around a lot that, and I use this in the workplace when I talk about why we can't just get along, that two men will be in a meeting and they will, vehemently disagree with each other, and you're wrong, and how you could be so stupid, blah, blah, blah. And then when the decision's made and you leave the conference room, the guy puts his arm around, oh, where are we going to lunch? Now,
let me buy you a beer.
Yeah. 2 women, on the other hand, high executives, doing the same thing, vehemently disagreeing, getting emotional. You can see it. And they won't talk to each other for the rest of their career. They'll duck into the bathroom when they see it. It is a gender difference. So I think that we can definitely take some coaching from the men on that one, or adopt their way of conflict. All right. Dishonesty, patterns of disrespect, negative financial behaviors. Oh, that's interesting. Sharing finances with a partner often involves some level of agreement on how you'll spend or save your money. That said, it's not necessarily toxic if one partner chooses to spend money on items the other partner doesn't approve of. Oh, I got a great example of that. It can be toxic, though, if you've come to an agreement about your finances, one partner consistently disrespects that agreement, whether by purchasing big ticket items or withdrawing large sums of money. That makes sense. Constant stress, ignoring your needs, lost relationship, lack of self-care. Are you nodding? Hoping for change, walking on eggshells. So that's Healthline's 14 checklist. Are you in a toxic relationship? How many did you find for your current relationship? Let's see. What do we got here? Maria's, yes, you have insecurities. Who had? Oh, that's probably a comment that I already went by. So, LOL. Yep, husband. I should have trademarked that. I really wonder. I don't have a lot of regrets in life, but I came up with that like maybe like 19 years ago. So the fact that one of my guests that was on my show, who will remain nameless, her initials are LN, big speaker. She took it and ran with it, and now people attribute that to her. Sorry, an aside. See, I do get resentful sometimes. I'll let it go. So how many did you nod to with your toxic relationship, or what you would think was a toxic? Did you ever have a toxic relationship, Sam?
Me, not to a degree where I'll define it as a toxic relationship. You know, there was a few things, like minor things that you read off, and I think one of the biggest ones is like not being able to function in public, just because like she was comparing herself to all the other pretty women out there, you know? Like when it was just her and I, it was great. Fantastic. Couldn't ask for anything better. But when we started going out in public, then it was like she felt insecure, you know, like it kind of just put us on eggshells when we're out in public, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's that last point there, right? Walking on. Are you in a relationship where you feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. So those were the only two things. Other than that,
So one, I was just going to be flippant and say, well, you're only 23 and you haven't had very many chapters in your book of romance, and wait, right yet. Although I will say that, and this is a compliment, that people will, it's my understanding, my BS, my belief system, that people will attract what they are. So if you're 88% healthy mentally, emotionally, you're going to attract someone who is sane. If you are damaged and you have oversized emotional baggage that doesn't fit in the overhead bin, then you're likely to attract sane. And that was me. I cannot blame my husband one iota for what happened between us. Even the hard stuff, even the losses, even the huge financial impact in that divorce. I cannot blame him, because I chose him based on the unhealthy parts of me: conflict avoidance, hoping against hope, trying to get trying to get milk from a tractor, right? Having someone who is not capable of loving, continuously go dip in there to try to get the love. That was the 5 times of conflict. Do you love me? Do you want to be in this relationship? And every single time, he didn't say no. He didn't say yes, but he didn't say no. So there's a hope there. But that's me. That was broken me, unhealed me, looking for love in all the wrong places. Gorgeous. He was gorgeous. My type, tall, chiseled jaw,
Hey,
very good
yeah,
looking.
when you show me a picture of him, I was like, dang, Dr. Marissa, like, hey, you got to give credit where credit's due. I was like, he's a pretty good looking guy. I'm not gonna lie.
And that's why I, went to MSU University making shiitake up. When people asked me what he did, I would, embellish everything and say he was marketing and sales for Budweiser. And the truth is, he was a delivery truck for bottling company that sold beer. Because his mom said, "I'm so glad you're with him. You'll aspire to get him into, more of his potential." And I just bought that in hook, line, and sinker. And again, no regrets. I have two beautiful daughters that I could not have had without him. I could have had other kids, but not those kids. So credit where credit is due.
Right.
And there was, he was a really good dad for many years until he wasn't. So okay. So the cashew gallery is a little quiet. I'm asking them to especially Maria, to chime in on the toxic. But let's go to solution. We're already way past halfway. Let's see what it says about how is it possible to stick? Is it possible to fix a toxic relationship? So I love turning the corner because I am all about the upside, the positive thing. All right. Is it possible to fix a toxic relationship? Many people assume that they're doomed, but that isn't always the case. The deciding factor, both partners must want to change. Manley, the expert says, if only one partner is invested in creating healthy patterns, there's unfortunately little likelihood that the change will occur. So both have to. That's the precursor. Acceptance of responsibility. I was just talking about that. I had to accept the responsibility. It's not all his fault. Unfortunately, when we went into therapy, my therapist said, you're really gonna, and I can't be that blunt because we are 8 a.m, but let's just say you have to be affectionate. It was a little stronger than that. And he would withhold intimate relationships as a power move because he knew that that was the only thing that I wanted from him or that I couldn't do for myself. So acceptance of responsibility, willingness to invest, shift from blaming to understanding. That's exactly what I'm talking about. If he had been willing to, like, what would it have taken for him to, if he said to me, I want to work on myself, I think, but the problem was I actually broke up with him. So there's a little hope for me, right? I did break up with him before we got married and said, you need to go to therapy. And he went to therapy one time and then called and said, I went to therapy. And I said, you're going to have to go longer than, one time. And then what happened was a really good friend of mine suddenly died of a heart attack. And it put me in that place of, grief and neediness. And guess who I called? And then we were back on. So, pardon?
I was going to say, you called the guy who went to therapy once.
Yes, I did. That was me. That was my responsibility. Openness to outside help. And I would strongly suggest if you are in a toxic relationship to seek outside help because, you don't try to fix your own car, right? There's experts I love working with relationships, doing relationship coaching, and I get away with it even though I'm not in a relationship because the name of my show is Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Oh, good. Here we go. Maria, I would never try to change a man, so no, couldn't fix it. I've learned to accept blame for choosing someone I knew I shouldn't be with. Good for you, Maria. And at that level of healthiness, Maria, you are going to attract someone who is healthier for you, even though if you're anything like me, it's still that marriage and divorce kind of really there's a little bit of um, reticence and like, oh, I don't even want to try yet. I don't think I'm healthy, but I know that I'm using that as an excuse to keep people away. So if you start trying to date again, I will too. See what she says to that. So let's go to what is a healthy relationship. Okay, we've established what is toxic. What is a healthy relationship look like? You get up in the morning. Let's do this like moose on the table, making it real, which I love to do. Wake up in the morning. What if you're so different that at every turn you want something different? So one's a morning person, one's not a morning person. One loves to eat healthy, one loves to go out and splurge. One is exercising, one is a couch potato. One smokes, one doesn't smoke. One is a high achiever, the other one is anything goes. One, it wants to have kids, doesn't want to have kids. So at some level, what does make a good relationship that is not toxic? I believe in love. I will never give up, but I will be more careful and not ignore signs. Well, you're definitely more healthy than I am. I don't know if I believe in love. I'm working on it. Working on it. That session with Dr. John Gray, I was lucky to have a private session after I interviewed him on the show. And if you haven't watched, that was a great interview. And he's working on me to try to be a cheerleader for the benefits of having a relationship. And it was great. I actually got to have lunch with him in San Francisco with his new wife, who's Chinese. And the two of them talk about like complete telling it like it is, authentic. Don't do that. Don't say that. How can you say that? Like in front of me and my daughter. And I'm like, that is amazing to me that you can do that and not feel threatened at all. And they just, the thing that both of them said is, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they love me so much that they would never hurt me. And I don't know if I could get there. I think that's a healthy relationship. When you have that kind of BS, that belief system, that person is so for you and never against you, then I guess conflict would be okay.
I agree. I think that is a healthy relationship, knowing that you're there for each other and not against each other. And I also think one of the problems is dating too many people. And the reason being is because you're going to find characteristics that you want in a relationship, and then you're going to find things that you don't, right? And you're going to favor one or the other. And I feel like you'll get to a certain point where you're like, oh man, I want someone who can cook like Brittany, but who has money like Sarah, but who loves me like, so forth and so forth. And then you're going to have all these criterias, and there's not going to be one person in the world that's going to meet all those, every expectation that you have, and then there's going to be that part where you're like, I don't want someone like this. I don't want someone like this. and you're going to start crossing out every existence out there, because everyone has problems, everyone has flaws. But if you're trying to look for that perfect person and that perfect relationship, then you're looking in the wrong place. You know, you got to be content and love yourself, and like understanding what love is. You know, like some people, if they say, hey, this is what love is and this is what I'm going to look for, but if you have a false mindset of love, you're never going to find it, and then you'll be searching for something that doesn't exist.
Great point. Like, I want someone who makes my toes curl.
Yeah.
And they may for 3 times. And then after that, if they don't, does that mean they are the wrong person? Or maybe after 9 months, is that the wrong person if they don't make your toes curl anymore? Right? And it reminds me of, someone said to me once, do you really want to have relationships or meet people and say, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like this, I don't like that? And it really stopped me in my tracks, because that is exactly my MO when I meet someone. It's not, oh, I really like this or I really like that. It's looking for the flags, looking for the things that are wrong right off the bat. And that's like a horrible way to try to get back in the dating game. So I have to practice what I teach on that. What is good? And when I was doing that speed dating, I actually did that. So there were 2 guys that I would never, based on looks, thought that we were compatible or that I would be attracted to them. But when I gave it a chance and actually listened, I developed something like a little bit of a light in my furnace. But it you know, that's my work for sure. Yeah. So what should, if, okay, so I'm going to put the moose on the table for a couple of things, that if this is happening in your relationship, that's a toxic relationship. And if you continue to stay in that relationship, I have extreme doubts on your emotional wellness and mental health. So not that and I've had to change some of my BS belief systems about domestic abuse, because I had some guests on who said it's very easy to judge people who are being battered and stay in the relationship, because you're like, that doesn't make sense to me. Why would you stay in a relationship when you're being beat up, like physically beat up? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. But they schooled me and educated me that's, battered women's syndrome or battered men's syndrome, that the whole abuse cycle is not that simple, is not that black and white. And when they described that to me, I had a lot more compassion that if you're in a toxic relationship where you're being beat up physically, then there's a lot of work that has to get done on your own mental health to be able to break that cycle. Who you were talking about cycle earlier. If you have a BS, a belief system that you are not worthy, right, of a healthy relationship, and you were raised in a toxic relationship with your parents where abuse, right, was a sign of love. I love you, therefore I'm going to beat you. That, as crazy as that sounds, that is a BS. That's a belief system, and it can be an unconscious one. So if that is, there are so many great places that are offered nonprofit that you can go to. So the hotlines I'm going to look up in a second, but so that physical abuse is definitely. The other resource I would offer up is Al-Anon. If you're in a relationship with an addict or an alcoholic, someone who is abusing something, then you need some support. And Al-Anon is a great 12-step program to help you see what's yours and see what's not yours. So those are the 2 resources. Sorry, is that a fur baby I hear? Is it a fur? Do you have a fur baby over there?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't
I
even know
didn't.
what a fur baby is.
Oh, a fur baby is an animal. Oh, and I want to do a deep breath. Thanks for reminding me, Maria. My furry nephew just went over the Rainbow Ridge named Mason. So deep breath in and releasing a breath of comfort and peace to his mom and dad, Annie and Dave, my bonus sister, and my bonus brother in love. And they're just hurting right now because Mason is basically their first child, and yeah, so he's on the other side, loving us. But I just wanted to offer that up to them. Okay. So let's see. It's so possible to break the cycle. I'm proof of both mental and physical abuse. So great. Thank you, Maria, for being that poster child there. It is possible. I am 88% breaking that cycle. I just have to get enough nerve to get back out there.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that's the true testament of strength is when like you can you can leave a relationship, a toxic, mental, abusive, whatever, and but going back into it, or not into like that, but into a relationship and seeing how you cope and how you deal and how you communicate is probably the greater result rather than just leaving one, you know. So I'm kind of curious. I hope Maria stays in touch and she gets a relationship and she can maybe talk about her experiences, you know.
Yep. Yep. Get the dirt, the clean dirt.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Final word. Was that your final word?
My final word would probably be stay tuned for next week. um, no, toxic relationships, know when to hold them, know when to fold them, right?
Know when to hold, know when to fold. The bottom line final word for me is every single person on the planet is loved, loving, and lovable, wrapped in a warm blanket of worthiness. We are all, we have a birthright to be 88% happy, and relationships and intimate relationships and that feeling of love, I'm talking to myself, is something you cannot get from your friends or your parents or your children or your whatever, right? You can only get it from that intimate relationship. So embrace it, explore it, go into your next chapter of your book of romance because you are worth it and worthy for it, as long as you've worked on your own side of things first, right? From a healthy perspective. All right. And that is it for Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show special series called Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa. And
Sam works.
please keep it tuned in here for the show about hope and happiness tomorrow. My co-host is Alon Carter. She is the daughter of Temptations founder Otis Williams. That's why the series is called Tempting Conversations, and they will it will be a tempting conversation as always. Thanks so much to my cashew gallery for coming in and being so supportive. Thank you. It's always a great show because you're all here. Thanks so much. It's all about balance. Peace in, peace out, world peace through, inner peace. Now go and have the best day ever. See you tomorrow.